Why is gray divorce suddenly on the tip of every financial planner's tongue?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And this, you probably have seen a lot of articles written in the last 10 to 15 years. And it all started in 2004 when we had a study, a landmark study that was released that studied divorce between 1990 and 2010. And they were shocked to discover during that 20-year time frame, the rate of divorce for people over age 50 had doubled. And it caught everyone off guard. No one saw that coming. And as a result, every industry out there immediately shifted and said, whoa, how do we help that population? And so we started to really look at it at that point, and what are the specific needs these people have, and studying why is it happening, and what is going on, and as with so many societal changes in the last 50 years, blame the baby boomers.
Yeah, it's all
they're
our fault. It is.
they're the
Yeah.
individualists. They're the ones that are doing everything different in very large numbers.
Mm.
And they're the ones that, let's face it, they grew up in the age of free love. And, and it's the generation that far more likely than previous generations to be unfaithful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's very sad, but that's so true. I mean,
yeah,
um,
it's very, very true. And then in
mhm.
addition, they're actively remarrying second divorces, even, or second marriages, even third marriages, which are even more likely to end in divorce.
No, there's no doubt that the baby boomers, and I'm on the upper scale of that, and I laugh about my two divorces, but they're not laughable. One was a terrible divorce, and one was a very friendly divorce. And ex-wife number two is still one of my closest friends in life. I don't think we've ever had a fight about anything. But the first one was rough. But the younger generation, which my parents would consider, me, the younger generation, they just don't take marriage as serious as our parents and grandparents did. And let's face it, it is serious. It only happens 2 or 3 times a lifetime. We have to be very careful, with who we marry and who we pick. But they also love immediate gratification. They want to be happy. And I know my Jewish mom would kill me from this. She'd come out from the grave and kill me for saying this. But my mom and dad were married 53 years, but they stayed together for the children. There was no yelling. There was no screaming. We were together on every holiday. Jewish holidays, bar mitzvahs, Easters with our friends, dances, everything you can imagine. And they didn't divorce because of the children.
Well,
And
so
then
let
when
me
they
ask you another question, though, Michael.
go.
Was your mother employed while you were young?
No, she was a greatest generation mom.
So this is one of the other things to really think about. On the surface, it feels like, oh, well, people aren't taking marriage seriously anymore. They were staying together for the kids. I'll tell you what, the reality is your mother was staying because what in the world would she do on her own,
That is
right?
so true.
And so
Yeah.
this is a big reason I think we're seeing this trend is generationally, baby boomer women largely were still stay-at-home moms. If
hmm
they worked part-time, but they were certainly underemployed relative to their spouse. Now we have these women in this new generation, in this new paradigm, where women have been empowered to support themselves and to return to the workplace. And some of these women are approaching retirement. And culturally, we've had this shift where your marital partner is indeed supposed to be viewed as your partner. And that old Ozzie and Harriet view of a dominant male partner and a subservient female partner is gone. But it's not necessarily gone from 30 to 50-year marriages that started back in the
That's right.
60s and 70s. So what
That's right.
I see in my office a lot is women standing up and saying, you know what? There's enough money now for both of us to be okay. I don't want to live like this anymore.
Empowered
And
to them.
largely gray divorce, 85% initiated by women.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I did not know that. Wow.
Another very interesting statistic with gray divorce, the vast majority of men remarry within 2 years.
Yeah,
And
we need women.
yeah, the vast majority of women never remarry.
The thing is that, when you look at a physical therapist or a person like me, we're really a guide. I can talk to you about what the possible causes are for your pain. I can show you the muscles that are tight that are causing some of that pain. I can teach you how to do the stretches, send you home with videos of the stretches that we talked about. But ultimately, you have to do those stretches every day. Now, when you think about stretching, again, it's not what you see at the gym, and it's not what you did in PE class when you were in school. It's a different kind of stretch, number one. But when you think about stretching of the human body, think about how a dog or a cat or even a bird, you can go out in the morning for a walk and you'll watch a bird stretching their wings out before they start to fly. They do that every day. And we have to do that every day because every single movement, every single thought, every single state of mind in our body changes the tension in our muscles. I mean, think about you get upset with somebody, how tight you get. You get frustrated,
Oh,
you
yeah.
get tight. But if you're having coffee with somebody, laughing and having a good time, you feel great.
Yeah.
All it changed was your state of mind. And so because we are emotional creatures, stretching then becomes an everyday event. So like I teach my clients, I always say to them, I stretch every morning for about 15, 20 minutes, and I stretch every evening before I go to bed for about 15, 20 minutes. I don't wake up with pain. And I just turned 65. I don't wake up with pain.
And, I'm just going to say it for people like myself that don't have a lot of discipline. I do things throughout life, good things, but most of them I do when I'm forced to do.
Yes.
Like dropping 60 pounds. I had a health scare 18 months ago. My doctors and my family, everybody that cared about me said, you got to lose weight, Dad. You're going to have a heart attack. You're going to have a heart attack. I didn't have a heart attack, but I thought I was having one. And that scared me into losing 60 pounds. And just like going back to the gym, I'm there 4 to 5 times a week now. But the first few months, that was hard. I had to push myself into doing it. And they say your mind takes approximately 90 days, 30 to 90 days, depending on who you talk to really recondition. Now I can't wait to get, after a few months, now I look forward. I'm having a rough day. I'm tense. I have a bad conversation. I'll work it out in the gym later. I can't wait to get there. Stretching 15 minutes in the morning and stretching 15 minutes at night is something you have to build a discipline to do. At least I do. I would have to anyway.
Okay, so let me help you with that. So even working out in the gym, once you start to see results, then all of a sudden it becomes easier to go to the gym.
Yes.
The tough part is when you first start out and you don't see the results. And it's like, okay, I've been going here for 2 weeks. I didn't lose 22 pounds. How come I didn't lose 22 pounds? I've been doing this for 2 weeks. Okay. It doesn't work that way. So it makes it a little bit harder. The beauty with this type of stretching is that it won't take you 2 weeks. What it will take you is just a few days. In fact, sometimes it can take as quick as 1 or 2 days. And what happens is that, and this is a common thing, somebody will come in, I'll show them what was going on. I'll show them how to take care of it. They'll go home, they'll do the work, boom, their plantar fasciitis stops. And then they stop.
And then
because
they stop,
they don't have any pain. They stop. Then they go back to wearing the same shoes that helped create the plantar fasciitis they had before and the same style of walking. And then 6 months later, it comes back. Well, then all of a sudden I get a call. They're desperate. They're back into plantar fasciitis. And the first thing I say to them, have you been stretching? Well, no, I just, it was feeling good. And I just stopped.
I stopped. Yeah.
I stopped. And then they went back to what they were doing. So it is something that you build upon. And as you build upon that and you start to see that, you know what, if I don't set as many hours as I do, or if I do this stretching, I can set as long as I want and I'm still fine. All of a sudden it becomes a part of their lives.
Yeah.
And it just takes a little time to see that it's going to change your life and you just have to do it. And once you make that, the same thing I did when I lost all that weight from eating, once I started changing on a mental side of my relationship to food, the losing the weight became easy.
People don't plan. It's, across the board, it's, one is life is busy, but the other thing, we don't even know what to plan for. We spend a lot of time in school learning about geography and all these other things that are super important, but we don't graduate from high school most people go to college now, but not everybody goes to college. But we don't know, how to manage our household budget, which you think would be a basic skill we would learn in high school, is how to save money. We don't learn how interest rates work. We don't learn how a credit card works. We don't understand what insurance is, but yet we get our first car and, 16, 18, 25, whatever, you get your first car. State says, okay, you got to buy auto insurance. So what do? You go, well, I like the Geico or I like Flow. So I'm going to buy auto insurance there. How much auto insurance do I need? I don't know. What are they selling? Oh, that's the lowest quote. I'm going to get that auto insurance. We don't have the skills. We don't even know what questions to ask.
That's right.
That's the bigger thing. We make, this is something that I like to come back to. We spend more time researching a new TV than we do researching our auto insurance that renews every year. But we're going to spend a lot more usually on our auto insurance than we are on our television. But it's so off-putting because let's say somebody goes, okay, I want to become curious about my auto insurance. I want to ask some questions. Okay. You're going to a website. You try typing in a question. You don't get the answer to it. So it's like, even if people decide they want to ask a question, or there's 20 videos on auto insurance. What is a deductible? How does a, claim work? All these things. And the person goes, well, I just want to understand, like, how can I get a lower premium? Or
Yeah.
how much coverage do I need? And so that's the thing, is that even if a person gets curious, it's hard for them to figure out the right information that they need. And that's the key, is when the financial services industry is going to be able to say, hey, we're going to give people the answers to the questions that they're asking rather than the questions we think they should be asking or we want them to ask.
Are you turning 65? Well, if so, the most important decision in your life right now is to determine which Medicare plan you need to be on for your unique changes in life. Are you still working? You on your employer's plan? How about being a snowbird? If so, you need to speak to a Medicare consultant who can help you with your needs. I'm Diane Daniels, and I'm the CEO of Medicare Nation. Go to www.62WhoKnew.com and click on the Medicare Nation tab. I will give you a free consultation to make sure we find the right plan for your unique needs.
Today, the average funeral can cost $10,000 to $20,000, and too often families are forced to make difficult decisions at the worst moment of their lives. Final expenses create stress, debt, and heartbreak, right when your loved ones need comfort, not crisis. That's why the 62 Who Knew podcast brings you trusted guidance on final expense insurance, an affordable, compassionate way to protect your family from unexpected financial burdens. Visit 62WhoKnew.com and learn how a small plan today can spare your family emotional and financial pain tomorrow.
That's why you're seeing so much more AI being used in healthcare. I mean, in 2008, when I got my MBA, this is exactly what I wrote my thesis on, is the changing landscape of senior care because families are smaller than they ever were. And we have more solo agers because they didn't, just like me, not married, no kids. My dog is great, but he's not going to be my caregiver, right? And so we're already...
He'll love you the most, though.
He will love me.
Unconditional love. That's it. Case
So
closed.
we're already seeing robots in resident rooms or in hospital rooms. We're seeing, because that way that hopefully will keep Marvin from trying to constantly get out of bed because they can be like, Marvin, it's kind of like a fake person, but we're going to be seeing more and more of technology being incorporated into senior care and healthcare because we just have such a shortage. We also have a patient advocacy division within my company, and it's pretty common that these facilities, we join in the family's journey wherever they live and wherever they are in the decision-making journey. And a lot of them also need our care advocacy services because the care in these facilities or with the home care workers is pretty atrocious because they're not properly trained always. there's no one holding them accountable. The other day, I happen to have a local client, which is kind of unusual, but I have a local client, and her family has me going in twice a week to check on her mom in a memory care facility. There's supposed to be 4 workers, and there's only 2. And so there's 6 and 7 hour gaps of time before I
Oh
got
my
there.
God.
There's 6 and 7 hour gaps of time, almost a whole shift where their loved one was not getting any attention. And so that's why I tell families, or encourage families, it's up to them to follow my recommendations, but absolutely cameras in your house and cameras in the care facility if the care facility allows it, because that's how we can also gauge. So we can say, look, Matilda hasn't been bathed for 4 days. She hasn't had anyone tend to her. And when I got there, and her incontinence brief is full of what it is,
Incontinence.
incontinence, of matter.
Or
The other,
antimatter in this
that's
case,
a good
yes.
sound clip too. Is full of matter.
Yes.
That's not acceptable. And so, the other thing is, we've got, 'cause I know senior care, and we have weeks and months of times where there's not anybody in leadership there. This client of mine that I'm actually doing in person, most of everything I do is virtual, but since she's local, she's been there 3 years in this memory care facility. They are on their eighth, like eighth executive director, and they're on their 6th memory care wellness nurse. Right now in the building, there is no executive director and there is no wellness nurse. So who do you think is running the building? It's the wild, wild west in there. And that's why this lady went 7 hours without being which means,
Isn't there state or national
well,
guidelines to say,
of course there are, but that's my whole point, is that's why we have to plan. That's why we have to have care advocates, or take my advocacy training class if their family is going to do their own care advocacy, because these are things that are happening in senior care and no one wants to admit it. In my industry, they're like, "Oh, Anna Lee, you're always like shedding light on what's going on." And I'm like, because families need to be aware
yeah,
so that they can plan ahead and not have their parent be killed by incompetent workers.
We are an obese country. And I can tell you again, as I got older, and even though I'm a confident public speaker and national author and yada, 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 you tend to look in the mirror and go, wow, when did that happen? I know a lot of men don't want to admit that, but I did. I mean, I did a few years ago, and I went, yeah, how did that possibly happen? I mean, I lost 55 pounds and I'm still overweight. I got about another 25 or 30 to go. And now I look back on it and I'm proud of myself for losing the weight. And I'm back at the gym 3, 4 times a week. But now, even that, which is a positive thing, I constantly find myself going, how the hell did I let myself do that? How did I spend 15 years morbidly obese? How stupid was I? Now, these are not good thoughts, but I will tell you, when I look in the mirror at the gym and I see a little growth and I go, okay, not bad for 67, but God, you still got a long way to go. I just can't seem to get out of that cycle of saying something great, thinking something great, but then ending with, how the hell did I let myself get to this? In many ways.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad you brought that up. First of all, just listening to you makes me feel sad and grateful. And I want you to know that obesity is not a problem of food or adipose tissue, fat tissue. It's a brain problem. It's a brain problem caused by stress. So what happens is, when our ancestors, way back when they had stress, it was typically that they were starving to death. And so for all of us, it's not just a few people who are genetically inclined to obesity. It's for all of us that when we get stressed, we will have a change in our appetite. Now, most people get very hungry and want to deposit that fat. And there are 8 major chemicals that all humans have that actually make you hungry for no reason. You are just starving all the time, and whatever you eat is just the exact wrong thing that's going to pack on pounds. And then whatever you do eat, even small deviations, will go right to fat tissue. So let me tell you that in that state of there are 8 chemicals, and those chemicals are cortisol, dopamine, serotonin, insulin, PYY, ghrelin, GLP-1. And what these chemicals do, all of these chemicals are caused by these circuits of stress. When you turn those circuits off, those chemicals normalize. When they normalize, it is like having Manjaro, except a healthy version of it, because you normalize all 8 of the chemicals, not just one with a few other hanging on, and you don't put yourself in starvation mode. Also, I want you to have unconditional love for yourself. That one of the circuits that you have may be, because with many successful people, you have to be very discerning to be successful, right? So if you're discerning, that means you're critical of yourself. You have to be very precise, and you're gonna also be critical of the fact that you've had a weight gain. You have every right to have had a weight gain, and let me tell you why. The stress of those circuits, those spiral down circuits, actually cause the thinking brain, which is the sort of the good parent inside of us, to disconnect from the emotional brain that controls these chemicals. And when that happens, you actually are not aware of what the sensations and emotions are in your body. So you didn't feel the quote weight of that weight because your brain was too stressed to give you that feedback. So the stress itself caused changes in your brain that would make it very unlikely that you would feel motivated and empowered to lose weight. You'd rather just move on to whatever else you're doing. So that's why it's Manjaro or any of them cannot solve this problem. And let me just tell you why. Because what happens in the brain is the stress comes in, one of these circuits, either a spiral up circuit or a spiral down circuit, is activated. If it's spiral down circuit, you're going to get widespread chemical dysregulation. You're going to have lots and lots of health problems, including most particularly everyone overeating and weight gain. If you don't catch it at the circuit level, there's so many chemicals and so much inflammation that happens, you can't mop it up. There's no chemical that will do what EBT will do for you. In other words, there's no drug you can take that will replicate natural health that comes out of these joy and purpose circuits, homeostatic. So essentially, you want to catch it before we have to use drugs. And then if we haven't caught it, use drugs, but at the same time, use EBT to get your brain and body optimally regulated so you can come off those drugs and also have many more expansive areas of being happy and healthy.
We've got this idea. You can either pay cash to purchase these critically important insurance and investment products. You can liquidate 20, 30% of your investment portfolio. Or here's a novel idea. You could sell 20 or 30% of your house. And that was the resonating comment that we were able to deliver over and over. And the feedback that we heard was nothing short of, well, this could be transformational.
Really. I know that a lot of the feedback that I get, and you probably explain it better than I do, is, what did you just say? The fractional what? And I go, no, I know I said it clearly. I'm a public speaker. The fractional sale of equity in your home, or a fractional sale of ownership. What do you mean? And I'm getting this even from CFPs, from certified financial planners. It is a platform or a theory that most people are not used to hearing, in my opinion, anyway, because the looks I get now, once I repeat it once or twice, and they go, yeah, that makes sense. But my first reaction, or people's first reaction to me, has been, what? What'd you say? Fractional sale of what? Do you run into that too, or are you doing it in such big crowds? I do it 1-on-1, 1-on-5, 1-on-10, so there's reaction. I know you do it to big crowds sometimes in conventions. Do you ever run across anybody going, what?
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, we all grew up, own a home, pay your debt down, try to be debt free, but that's, antiquated thinking in our eyes. If you could own your home and enjoy all the home ownership benefits and live in your home and pick and choose the color, and we don't live in your home, and you could literally sell up to 50% of your home, that's pretty powerful, and not have us involved other than just a percentage of ownership in your home. And you're, as the client, are always in control. I mean, there's no term on our product. So if you want to stay in the home to age 150, God bless you, stay in the home. If you want to pay us off after a year or 2 years or 5 years, that's fine. You can move at any time. You can refinance this out at any time. So it's a very elegant product for the consumer with optionality.
Yeah, and the power of which most consumers, and this is a consumer-based show. I know we have a fair amount of financial planners watching, and the show is distributed to huge groups with financial planners, but we are a consumer-facing show. Consumers don't realize the strength of taking six figures, whether it be $100,000 or $200,000 or whatever, in their 40s or 50s, and having a professional financial planner do something with that money that changes their life in their 70s and 80s. And since the number one concern in the nation, number one, number two is death, number one, we know this pitch, Greg, the number one fear of everyone getting older in this nation is outliving their money. This literally being done, and I've always been staggered by that. Our viewers know I'm a spokesman for reverse mortgages. This is not a reverse mortgage. This accomplishes things that reverse mortgages never could. But we keep up with these type of things. And, you know, Craig has heard me say this and has said it himself, I'm sure, many times. You know, for decades, when they used to take polls and surveys of what people in their mid-60s fears were, they would come up with like the top 10 or the top 15 fears of people in their mid-60s. And for almost all of eternity, since they were taking those surveys, the number one fear was death. I'm 62, I'm 65, I'm thinking about my own mortality. Should I be retiring? Social Security, should I take it? Should I defer it? Number one fear for people getting older is death. Doesn't that make sense? Mm-hmm. Until about 9 years ago, when death moved to number two. And all our viewers can Google this. This is not an opinion. Death is now the number two fear in this country to elderly. Number one fear is outliving their money, being broke before they die. And that's what gets to me about Chiefs, that if you can do something with Chiefs in your 40s or 50s, probably your 60s too, right, Craig, Dan? Mm-hmm. But, man, that 45 to 55 mark, to take 100 or 200,000 out of your house and have a financial planner do something smart with it, oh, you ain't dying broke. You're going to have a good time in your 70s and 80s. I don't know if I'm oversimplifying it, but to me, that's what staggered me the first time you talked to me about Chiefs. For millions of Americans, the greatest asset they own is their home. Yet most of that equity sits locked away, unused. What if there was a way to unlock your home's value without debt, without interest, and without monthly payments? Introducing Chiefs, converting home equity into financial success. A revolutionary strategy that lets you turn a small piece of your home's equity into cash you can use today to protect your retirement tomorrow. Visit 62WhoKnew.com to learn how Chiefs can fund long-term care, annuities, life insurance, or lifestyle goals. Whether you're purchasing a new home or refinancing the one you love, one thing has never changed. Mortgages remain the most inexpensive cost of funds available. And in today's market, choosing the right mortgage professional can save you thousands and help secure your financial future. That's why the 62 Who Knew podcast partners with American Pacific Mortgage, one of the nation's most respected lenders, helping homeowners make smart decisions at every stage of life. Visit 62WhoKnew.com to learn how the right mortgage strategy can power your retirement plan.
We never set out to innovate. In fact, it wasn't even that it was like distant on our mind or far down on our list. It wasn't on our list. All we wanted to do was serve patients.
Right.
We had a heart to say, man, just look at the suffering that is going on. Look at the suffering. I mean, people, when you're sick, when you're injured, when you're scared, when you're anxious, whether it's you or a loved one, the whole world stops. It doesn't matter. There's nothing more important than solving this problem for you or your loved one. And we just had a compassion. So everything we did, everything we built, none of it was based on innovation. It was all based on, how do I care for somebody? How do I deeply care for them? Because I forget, so I'm clearly quoting from someone, maybe you guys know, but the concept of nobody who cares how much you know until they know how much you care
Yep.
matters more than people realize. And what we found both in starting it, and then as David said, just keep building bricks onto this over the years, is if you could care less about innovation and all you want to do is deeply care for patients in a, unfortunately but true, in a healthcare system that is completely profit driven, it turns out that the irony is we were the most innovative by doing nothing but deeply caring for patients.
And Mike, you asked a question before, what's the difference between this platform and other telemedicine virtual health programs? And it's what Keith just said. This was formed by two ER providers who saw the need. They built it with compassion and care for others. That's the biggest differentiator. And folks that are listening, you will not be disappointed, even if you never use it. Over the course of a year, you don't know when you need it. You just don't know. It's there. It's nice to know that. And to have
the truth of the matter is, if you use it once, you've got your money's worth. That's kind of ridiculous. Yeah. But as compared to a trip to the ER, you not only have your money's worth, it's a quarter of what a trip to the ER is. Yeah. And then waiting in a room where everybody else is sick, and you're going to walk out sicker than when you came in.
Yeah, true. I mean, you go in with strep throat, and you come out with strep throat and pink eye.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, the waiting room in a hospital is a petri dish. It shouldn't say waiting room. It should say petri dish seating area.
That's really true. It's obvious. It's obvious to me and to anybody who really looks at this program that Keith and Mike, the originators of this, were not in it for the money. Because if you think about the services that are being offered and the amount of money that they're asking to be able to compensate all of these practitioners that are on call all over the country, available within 30 minutes, which for my family, by the way, never took more than about 18 minutes to get a call back. Sometimes it was under 5. So no, didn't do it for the money. The compassion, the desire to help people, that's what drives this and what makes it even more incredible.
These men and women are servants to you. Yeah, that's in accordance to the big book.
And I'm going to bottom line it. I mean, it's just $250 a year for your entire family. I'm a numbers person. That's $20.83 a month. That's 66 cents a day. I mean, a frickin' cup of coffee in Starbucks is $8. It's 66 cents a day to have your best friend now be an ER doctor that you can call 24/7. We've got to get the word out on this. We got to scream it, from the rooftops. It's just, it is what it is, and that's why we're here talking about it. Any final words of wisdom? I liked what you said, that we're not salesmen, that we're all those other things, David. I was trying to write it down, but I'm not going to be able to fit it on a business card. It's just too many words.
Yeah. No.
What do you do? Here's my card.
Yeah. What I've learned in my journey of being in this business for a long time, most people, middle income, above income, even that are borderline into that 7-figure world, don't really have a sense of what it is to prepare themselves for a lifetime of guaranteed income. A lot of us in our age category, Mike, grew up with the idea of work hard, save, buy a house, pay it off, put your money in a 401k. Maybe if you're lucky enough to get a pension, you're going to be okay. And, Tom, expresses it. Other professionals express it from different sides of it on the insurance side. But in 2008, we saw what happened to people that followed that plan. And post-COVID, we saw what happened to people that followed that plan. Annuities are a product backed or that are generated from an insurance provider. It's a contract. An annuity is a contract to protect your money, grow your money, and to give you a vehicle for guaranteed income for life. Now, anything I say like that does demand and require an advisor or professional to structure it properly so it meets your needs. It's just not a flat thing. You go buy an annuity and you get income for life. It's a matter of making certain it's built for you individually. With really top-notch insurance companies, annuities are driven off of an insurance backbone. They come from insurance companies, and insurance companies are the generators or the people that provide those contracts and back them.
and build them in a way that benefit individuals that don't have access to pensions, so that your money is available to for your entire life, so you don't outlive your money. So that's the real basic baseline of an annuity. The second thing I'll add, and then I'll throw it back to you, is there's a couple of different style of annuities. There's some that are built to just grow your money first. Some are driven for income, and they can also be built so that they start to do what we were talking about a minute ago, help protect you and prepare you for your long-term income needs, so that when you get to the place where you're no longer able to earn, and after the time that you're, on your go-go mode, when you're in your no-go mode, as Tom would call it, you
That's
have
right.
income to really help take care of you so you don't have to worry. So I like to keep things as basic as possible. Did that general overview make sense?
It makes absolute sense. And again, as you brought up, 20 years ago, so many people were getting a pension. So you grew up, you saved a little, you got your house paid off, you had your pension, you have Social Security, and life is going to be good. But so few American companies are still doing pensions, unless you're a police officer or a fireman or a teacher. And even though those pensions, although they're great, and those three groups of people that I just mentioned, they certainly deserve that pension, but they deserve more. They can't live on that pension. Social Security, wonderful thing. It's been bankrupt. It's been, in default for more than a decade now.
To chime in on the Social Security, that was never meant or designed to be something that we as the general population should rely on for retirement. It was supposed to be a complement or a supplement to it to help us out if we were prepared in other ways, AKA that old pension and, combining with our Social Security. But we all know what happened. Social Security is not secure and the pensions went away.
Yeah. We've become a 401k IRA nation. And although it may be fun to put $2,500 away every year, unless you live to be 262, there's not going to be a lot of money in that account. It's better than nothing. I'm not making fun of people with IRAs and 401ks. You can accumulate a fair amount of money, but you've got to do your own planning. You've got to start in your 40s and 50s, because again, it's not your grandfather's world. You're not planning when you're in your 60s retiring to live another 10 years. You're planning to live another 20 or 30 years. And the world doesn't plan for that. I mean, the top 5% has the millions in the bank. They don't, if they're bad planners, well, they write a check. The rest of us are working for a living. You're going to be 60 in 10 days? You said 7 days?
I'm going to be 60 in 7 days.
All right, I'm 67, still working, proud of it, proud of what I do. I've said this a lot. Anthony has heard me say it. I say it when I do public speaking. At my present rate of building wealth, I'm right on target to retire when I'm 112 years old. That's not exactly what I plan. That's not exactly what I planned 10 years ago. But you had the Great Recession from 2009 to 2013. You had the COVID economy. We went to bed December of 2021. We woke up with rates at 3%. We woke up January of 2022, the next day at 7.5%, which destroyed all the markets, and we're still recuperating. So preparation now, it just has never been more important.
My latest book is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Now, this is not for 62 who knew people. This is for their kids, okay? But I know a lot of you think that your kids are doing dumb things with their money. They're spending too much on cars. They're not saving it up. Instead of nagging them, get them this book, Tom Hegnes, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I show them how simple it is to become a millionaire in America today. I'll just give you an example. My latest slide, and I give this presentation, is turn your car payment into $1 million. Because the number one reason most Americans aren't millionaires, I said there's two things. Number one, they spend way too much money on their cars. And number two, they get divorced. So the moral of the story, drive a used car and stick with your first spouse. But my favorite slide is turn your car payment into $1 million. And what I show people is a $250,000, $500,000, and $1,000 a month car payment. And if instead of paying that in the car payment, remember, you're paying interest on a depreciating asset, that's not very smart, all right? If you turn it into and get 7% on your money, that $250,000 is going to be worth $1.36 million at some point. The $500 one is going to be worth like $2.7 million, and the $1,000 car payment is going to be worth $5.4 million. Now, I know couples where both the husband and the wife have $1,000 a month car payments. Do you honestly?
I write mortgages for those
think
type
they
of
know
people.
they're driving their $10.8 million retirement down the road? It's stupid. We've got to get young people to put their money into appreciating assets. Instead, they're putting them into cars and boats and RVs and jet skis and shoes and handbags and clothes and computers and iPhones. Every one of those is a depreciating asset. And if the majority of your money is going into things that are going down every day, you're never going to become wealthy. You want to put it into things that go up in value.
Is there a slide in your presentation when your wife leaves you and takes your Corvette?
No, but
is there anything about that? Because
I've been married 42 years to the same woman, but I got friends who've been divorced. I got one that's divorced 3 times, and he was a millionaire, and now he's trying to live in Guatemala because he doesn't have any money. So I mean, it's really scary. And what's worse is they're financing it. They're putting on their credit cards or they're paying interest on car loans. I just want to pull out my hair. That's why they're not becoming rich.
Well, when I write mortgages, and you're so right about this, I consistently write mortgages for people. Husband and wife have car payments between $500 and $1,000 each. And even though I like nice cars, that's just absurd for $1,500 to $2,000 a month to be going towards a depreciating asset. It's just, the world is out of whack. Let's
But
face
nobody's teaching kids this. Nobody's telling them this. Who's showing them that their car payment should be $1 million? Then nobody showed them that. If they knew that, I'll bet a lot of them would make different choices with their car picks.